Welcome to ABA on Tap. I'm Mike Rubio with Dan Lowery. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and always analyze responsibly. All right, and welcome back to yet another installment of ABA on Tap. I am your ever grateful co-host, Mike Rubio, and this is part 2 with Shouberte Abreu. I hope I said that correctly, or as we endearingly called her, Shuby. Enjoy.
So when you were saying like a year and a half in that you wanted to do your own thing, it wasn't necessarily start your own company for ABA practice. It was you wanted to figure out how you could help support RBTs and future BCBAs. That's something that speaks to me a lot because I've been the trainer at the company I met Mike at. I was the trainer there for probably 10 years. Then the company that I brought Mike to, I created, we were another guy and myself. We basically ran that company, which was awesome because we had complete creative freedom. But it's also kind of like, well, now I'm responsible for the outcomes here. I can't really blame it on everyone or anyone else. And I think we had really, really good outcomes. But Mike brought up a point that I think is so valuable is that, once you have some certifying agency or licensing agency, then people train to that, like with state testing in schools. Once a state test is established and that's how school funding is given, then teachers are going to have curriculum to train to that test. And that once the BACB came out with the RBT exam, then everything was kind of training to that test. And our trainings were kind of built around having to fulfill the first edition task list, and now I think it's the second one. But a lot of it, it was a 40-week training, and I thought that's why I left my first company, because it went from me training, which people liked. That sounds cocky, but people liked the fact that there was a trainer there delivering it versus just to online. And then my company that we had, I fought tooth and nail to keep training in person. But like Mike said, what happens is that these trainings are about differential reinforcement and fading reinforcement schedules and all these definitions, which, while relevant in my experience, and I'm also curious about yours, and I know, Dr. Scott, you from even a slightly more of a clinical side, I'd be interested to get your perspective. What I found is can you interact with a kid? That's the number one thing. If I just put you with a kid, can you interact with that kid? And if that kid throws a tantrum, can you not freeze up? Because that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You could know all the different reinforcement schedules and you can know all of these things. Exactly. But when that kid throws a tantrum and that parent's there looking at you and you freeze up or you can't engage and interact with that kid, that parent's going to call me and be like, so-and-so doesn't know how to interact with my kid. I want a new therapist. And they could pass the RBT exam great. They could know all the reinforcement schedules and things like that. But I found that there was a big disconnect between what was being taught to certification and really what was actually needed in the field, at least initially. And maybe because of that, it led to a little bit more sterile, clinicalized feel of ABA practice. You mentioned you come from a child development background. So does Mike. Those are two words we try not to say on this podcast because if we bring those up, Mike will talk for 8 hours on child development.
You said it.
But I said it. So I don't know. What is y'all's thoughts on kind of what I said, that discrepancy between what's trained and what's the expectation of training versus what might actually be needed in the field?
I don't know if Dr. Scott wants to tackle that one for us first.
I could always talk on it, but
I think both of you all should. And you developed the training, Zoe, so maybe you could talk on it first, and then Dr. Scott and Mike or whoever else.
Okay. Well, I feel like the discrepancy with what we're seeing when it comes to how we're being trained, and especially when we are working for an ABA company already, what they do and what they have said is, we are going to train you to become an analyst. And it's for free. So if you stay within the company, it is for free. If you leave the company, you have to, I guess, provide for yourself to find a different analyst who's willing to help and everything. I feel like most people, of course, when they are in a BT or going for RBT and they're student analysts, they want to stay for the company for sure. What I've seen happening is At times, the analyst is helping that student analyst complete their hours, whether it's restricted, unrestricted, they are doing that. And I tell student analysts all the time, please make sure you have more than one, not just one analyst, because that one analyst can leave or something happens and they're like, you know what, those don't even count. I've heard stories where you work for the company, it counts. You don't, then I'm not signing off on anything that you've already done. This is so outrageous. The things I've heard happening. So this is why a lot of them have to look for somebody else, or they still have to pay for to have just that second or third person to have an eye out and everything. Now, the thing is, what I noticed as the discrepancy is the BACB, feel like I need to uphold accountability for things like this. And I will mention what they are. The BACB says that RBTs / student analysts, they're the ones who need to make sure that they're held accountable for their hours, for them to be done, for you to know and to go to an analyst and say, hey, you need to sign this for me. Hey, I need this, I need to get done. I think this is outrageous. I think it doesn't make any sense. It never made sense to me at all. I tell people who come to me that you need to hold me accountable. I'm not holding you accountable only. It is both parties and stuff. Actually, I feel like I should be held accountable, number one, first. The reason why, when you see a doctor is teaching a student doctor, okay, so they call them the attendant, right? I think that's how they call the doctor, right? So that doctor is the one held responsible, asking those questions, hard questions, and asking them to make those decisions, putting them on the line, and then supervising as well. Do you see that? I don't know. I've never seen a student doctor next to the doctor looking at the doctor and be like, so yeah, what do I do here? What is next? Whatever. You always see it's the doctor who's like, so what would you do in this situation? Or you see this when you watch a video, documentary, or movies. If this is really how it is portrayed, you see doctors are the ones asking, so how would you do this? What do you think of that or this? Why is it that the RBT / student analyst has to be the one to remember, who barely knows what's on the task list, what is written? They don't even know much. They probably have only taken 2 to 3 classes, that they should be the one to tell me, hey, by the way, can you please teach me this? You have not taught me that. Or by the way, can you please sign this? You haven't. Or by the way, I should be doing the research as an analyst, knowing, okay, this is what I need to sign for them. This is what the document looks now. This is what I did last week, and I need to teach this week, not me chasing down my supervisor / mentor that, hey, can you please teach me about all the differential reinforcements, about all the back cage? No, I think all jobs, companies, the way I'm doing my business, the way we are doing it, we have something that we follow. All of those ones who are supervisors, who recorded their name, registered their name in the BACB, they need to be the one to be like, hey, meet with me next week. We're keeping this going for this amount of time, and that's what I'm teaching you next. And this is what I'm signing. Hey, did you have me sign this document for last week? Where you're tracking, you're helping them doing this. I have seen where the student is the one trying to find what tracking system the analyst doesn't even know and stuff. Do I know myself everything? No, but it is my responsibility to go to the Quabba board or go whatever, try to or collaborate with an analyst. Hey, what are you using and stuff? Let me kind of borrow that, or let me use it too for my tech. It is not the tech's responsibility. This is why we are failing, so many of them, and they are sitting for the exam 5, 6, 7 times. They can't pass. You've seen a number of the a number of rising ones, of the failing ones are rising, and the ones passing has gotten lower and lower because everybody's still doing it the way they saw they had the supervisor teach them. So, like, for example, if I know I didn't have the best supervisor, why should I keep that same route to teach somebody else? I need to upscale my thing. And this is where I see the discrepancy is where the students, they go and pay the companies to help them. They're doing a much better job than the ones they're working for that they say is free to teach them. That is what I'm seeing, because they're the ones doing more of the research. I don't know if it's because the analysts are so busy, they're occupied, they're tired, they are burned out from already seeing clients or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, I got to teach this, I got to do that. I don't know if this is what's happening. This is why, if there are some analysts you have, hired and they are part of the program development for the BACB and everything for students, if it's 25 billable hours for everybody, then make it 20 for them. That way they can focus with that student and provide a lot of their help and that energy to help. And I think the BACB needs to change that and hold both accountable, not just the RBT.
That makes sense. Dr. Scott, anything you wanted to add on that or my question as well? You just have to do it with the same energy that Shobi just did it and the same amount of passion.
But what was the question?
Yeah.
I think we were talking about the difference between taking things out of out of the classroom, and that what that looks like differently, in practice. And I guess being in both places, because I teach too. So, I'm a professor at Temple, and I teach undergrads and I teach graduates and I teach behavior science classes, for them to get, this is a verified course sequence so they can get their BCBA cert. But I don't teach for them to be BCBAs. I teach the science of behavior. And what they do with it is completely different. And I really have to teach that way too, because especially an undergraduate, because you don't know if that person is going to be a BCBA. I have speech therapists and such, that are in my class, and people with different majors. So, I'm teaching this science that they can use in a lot of different places, not just, working with kids with autism. And I think that's what the BACV is mostly focused on trying, to do right now. They're trying to certify certificates, people to work with kids with autism. And I can understand that's where the money is. It's just not what I was all about. But I do see, it's funny, like, because my clinical practice is in mental health. So, but I still will have clients with autism, and I use very similar interventions, token reinforcement, and I train parents to use the token reinforcement and such like that. Wait, Mike, wait a second. Hold on. Who said you could go? Dan, did you say Mike could leave? He's not allowed to just get up and leave like that. I'm in the middle. How is he going to know what happens? I know he doesn't listen to the episodes.
All right, now we talk about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now we can talk about. It's funny when you said, "Oh, if there's anything you want to take out," but then I asked you guys about that time. You asked me like, "Oh," or Mike asked me, "What would you do to help the Cowboys win a Super Bowl?" And then I went on for like 5 minutes on what I would do, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should ask them to take that out because I really don't want the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl." Mike is a big Cowboys fan, and I'm a big Eagles fan. And the Eagles and the Cowboys, they don't get along. They are opposing forces. It's kind of like if you have a magnet and the north and south, and you're trying to put them together, and it doesn't, and they like repel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh man.
So let me ask you. I want to kind of go back. So, should be what you were saying. So you did that, then you wanted to support people with their training and kind of getting to their next step. And it's funny, Mike has a great statement that I like, that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes habit. So it makes me think of what you were talking about, how we just practice one way of training people and then the next person does the same thing and the same thing and the same thing, even though it's not necessarily better. So then you created your website, Behaviour Lifestyles, right? Is that correct?
BehaviorLifestyle.com.
Yep. So I wanted to pass it to you to talk a little bit about that and then maybe get into Seba if that's good for you. Did you have anything before I move to your website? So talk about kind of, you gave us the background about how you created it with Suzanne, but talk about your website and maybe how that also integrated or got you into SEBA. But first, your website.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's with the website, this is why I actually went along and I said, okay, let's do something different. I don't really even want to have like a company unless if I have a company, I feel like I have a vision in the way it would be different because I think how I would do it is hire an analyst and this analyst can focus on program development. They can still work with children as well and provide services and still build the 155, but I would not tell them to bill a 25 billable hours. I think I would have them bill a 20 and then they can use that other 5 for the rest of the week just to focus on things like that. And so I feel like with the way I did build and that company and it came to my mind, I was like, you know what, it's just so I want to do something different. And I wanted to get a lot of traffic of people when I post, this is how different we are, this is how you're going to learn, this is the new thing you're going to get, and stuff like that. Some people are still like, you know what, hi, I'm getting this for free in my company and I'll stay within my company. And they don't realize that at times going outside or having more than 2 to 3 analysts actually help. You don't want to stick with only having one. I don't recommend it at all. You need to have a backup plan and have more than one, at least 2, and so even 3 if this is possible. Now, this is how Suzanne came into the picture, where because I'm on LinkedIn and I do see people and everything, somebody gave me Suzanne. Somebody was like, you know what, this person's a consultant and this person can help you with your website and help you along the way. And this is how I contacted her. And I said, hey, someone told me to contact you. And I gave her the person's name at the time. It's been a while. And Suzanne was like, wow, this is amazing. And she helped me along the way with building everything, having like pretty much like a task analysis breakdown of
Sure.
the steps and everything of what you really need, the components to build this and get it going, the brand and sticking to it. She even actually created something for me where when I post a certain type of way, like say I want to post something on LinkedIn, she reformatted how the flyer should look like for this, for how it should look like for if I get on Instagram, because it's not one size fit all and everything with them. They have different dimensions and everything. She did all of that for me. And this is how, we kept in touch. And now she's also with, on, ABA on tap. And this is how, she was like, hey, I know Schouberte's part of SEBA. She's in SEBA with other people. And she was like, hey, how about you come and speak with something like this based on what you're doing? And actually, Suzanne did register with SEBA in the beginning a little bit. And I believe she's still part of it, like as in she'll show up more for the meetings. She's not an officer, but she'll show up for the meetings. She'll root for us. She will like, repost, share. And I like the type of engagement in that we still keep that connection going. Although she is not helping in terms of building brand or helping me to continue to grow a behavior lifestyle, but she's helping me as a person to continue to grow by still, with the engagement, still coming and being part of SEBA, coming into the meetings, providing her input and all of that.
Awesome. So you mentioned how she got involved and that you need a little help with the website, and you mentioned that you had the desire to have the eagle over the book. What was your vision with Behavior Lifestyle? Like what the website, the platform, was it basically to help? The training piece, is that kind of your vision of you wanted to get your name out there so you could help people pass the exam? Yes. Is that kind of where it came from?
Yes, to help people and make sure that we focus on 2 things but we focus on one more than the other. So we focus on making sure that the person can get those hours, the student analyst, they're getting those hours, extra help that, hey, I feel like I have reached 1,300 hours and I need more. Or I feel like I have reached my unrestricted, this is where I'm at, but I need more of that. And a lot of the times people do not understand, and I've told them within my site. Now, it's not written on the site, but I've told them when they meet with me, I say 5% is the bare minimum. It doesn't mean you have to stick there and stay there. You
Yep.
can actually reach more than the 5% that they are requiring. It can be 6, it can be 7, it can be 10. So I tell that the more you learn and you feel like there's still something missing and you've already reached that 5%, you can continue. You can push yourself. And so if people also, besides students, if I think I wrote it too, an analyst who also feel like you're still missing something. Yes, I'm an analyst, I pass, but I'm still missing like that oomph. I'm still missing that something for me to be better as an analyst. You come to a hub. Like that hub is more like, okay, we can discuss, we can vent, or we can discuss about this and how we can come up with like like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a conclusion, like realization, like something, a finalization of the final piece of this is what I need, what I want to talk about. Then you can come to behavior lifestyle for it. So it's not just for students. Yes. Do we have more students come? Yes. Do we have analysts come at all to us? No. But we do want analysts to also come and say, hey, I feel like I need more training. I just finished, I passed, I'm an analyst, and I feel like I need to know what do I really even put as caregiver goal training for that client.
Yeah.
And you can come and learn about it. And how to do it is we also have a book. It's called an ABA Parent Guidebook. And I tell people you can buy it. And Makoto Shibutani is the writer, the author of that book, the ABA Parent Guidebook. And that book, you can go into it, get some of those, ideas so you can have goals. Sometimes the goals I see they write for the parents have nothing to do with what I really want to see the parent learn in terms of what their kid actually needs. Like, for example, if I am working with an 18-year-old, and that 18-year-old, it seems like they need more of that ACT therapy. They really like to, I actually really do have an 18-year-old, really, true story. And they project a lot of
no, she's not 18. I was going to say so does
Yeah.
Mike, but she's not 18. He's got a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old? Go ahead,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, you can still do it with a 16. They're very close. What some of them on the spectrum, they tend to be lonely. They tend to be alone. ACT therapy can really be a great source where at times they are projecting negative self thoughts and negative all of these things. Like I have him say to people, I am stupid. I don't think people think I am smart. I don't think I can do this. I think it's outside. And we can use positive self reframing for that. And we use worksheets, ACT worksheets, all of that to help with something like this, diffusion and all of that, right? So I use a sheet for him and everything. What do you think should be a goal for the parent? I tell like an analyst, if I were to teach that, I would say a goal for the parent, it has nothing to do with, caregiver will learn how to know what his behavior, a behavior, and when he doesn't even engage in behaviors, or it would be something like caregivers will learn how to help client by providing positive self-reframing or positive
Yeah.
words of affirmations when he engages in those statements. That is the goal that this caregiver needs to help this client. It has nothing to do with the parent will learn about antecedent strategies, about the consequence of this. No,
Sure.
or knowing the different variety of level of prompts. No, this goal is what the caregiver would need for this typical client. So this is what I want analysts to get and be like, I can still learn. It doesn't mean like I pass and you can't still go to Behavior Lifestyle, Study Notes ABA, or other companies out there. You can still grow yourself while you're getting those CEUs and still learn.
Absolutely.
And come and yeah.
That's why we love this podcast, because we're always learning. Every time we bring people on, we always learn. And I feel like sometimes the field can get a little stagnant. So that Behavioral Lifestyles then connected you with Dr. Scott, and you all got, so now if it's a good time for you to talk about the Society for Exceptional Behavior Analysts. Is that, I said that right?
Expansion.
Society for the expansion.
Why did I say exceptional?
Behavior.
It's going to be an exceptional. Yeah, it's going to be an exceptional expansion.
The Society for the Expansion of Behavior Analysis. Yes. So let's go ahead, Scott.
I have an assessment for you. I came up with an assessment to determine whether you belong in it.
All right.
Uh-oh.
So now let's open the door to the Seba talk. The floor is y'all's.
All right, and I'm fine. You called it Seba, and we usually call it Seba, and I'm like wondering if this is going to be like a West Coast, East Coast thing, like where in the West Coast you call it Seba, and the East Coast you call it Seba, right? So I don't want to do anything about it. Please continue to call it that, and then maybe it's a way we know where people,
I like it,
where everybody's from. But okay, so the assessment it's just 4 questions, and then it's on a scale of 1 to 5. Your answers would be, and 1 would be being completely disagree, 2 is somewhat disagree, 3 would be neutral, 4 would be somewhat agree, and 5 is completely agree.
Oh, rarely do we get put on the spot on our own podcast, Mike. All right. Man, first we got a surprise guest, then we got a test we didn't study for.
That's what you get with Dr. Scott. That's what you get with Dr. Scott.
Go ahead, Dr. Scott.
Just remember, 5 is completely agree, and that should be all your answers here. You shouldn't even be thinking any other number.
I love this. So, direct instruction.
So, question 1 is: applied behavior analysis is a science of behavior, not just a science of autism. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that'd be a 5.
Completely agree with that. Okay. Yes. All right. Behavior analysts should be working with many different populations in many different settings and with many different behaviors.
So when you're saying behavior analysts, are you saying the field, or are you saying each individual behavior analyst should work with many different?
Well, certainly the field.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly the field.
Say 5. Oh, okay. I guess we're audio podcast, so we got to say 5.
Yeah, 5.
Nobody can see you putting up your hand.
5.
I would like more options when it comes to careers instead of just autism.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, behavior analysis is a science that can change the world.
That's a 6.
6.
Yeah.
So you guys scored 20 collectively. If you scored 13 or higher, it means you should join SEBA.
Well, there it is. It's official. It's official. We're going to have to do it now.
This is great.
Yeah.
Love it.
I believe that puts you guys in the critical range, so it's critical that you join SEBA.
I like this assessment. This was good. This was good.
But yeah. I do have some questions for you. I came up with some general SEBA questions. I figure it would be fun to ask everybody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'd like to hear everybody say. So if you had your choice of working in any setting with any population and on any behaviors, what would you choose?
I'm trying to do this. I want to be in a pediatrician's office. I want to be in some sort of pediatric practice where any one of those pediatricians in the practice could be like, oh, okay, I hear you. Here's our 60-minute consultation. I looked at this, and this on my end, and then go see Mr. Rubio down the hall on your way out about the bedwetting issue or whatever it is. I would want to be in a pediatric setting for all kids, cool. Not just kids with autism, obviously, but a lot of early pediatric issues that come up, as you guys may have heard, that take parents to the pediatrician, but those particular professionals aren't equipped to deal with those behaviors. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. How about you, Dan?
Man, I've gone through 4 different ones in my head. I would think either corrections, working on helping people find societally acceptable ways to interact with society that don't get them involved with corrections, or like some sort of addiction piece for like gamblers or people that are addicted to drugs, impulse disorder, or something with athletics to give people like a step up to figure out how we can, like you've talked a little bit about on your side, Dr. Scott, to use behavior analysis to give people a step up on their competition. One of those three.
How about you, Shibi?
I see myself more in the pediatrics department because I think I've worked in the pediatrics department. I feel like I think I would thrive in an environment like this. I don't know if people know, I do have sickle cell disease. And so working with a population with somebody that has sickle cell disease, which is some form of an anemia, I would really be happy to help with knowing how to manage pain. And besides that, I love forensics. I don't know, I'm intrigued by it. I want to learn more. And I think it would be substance use or abuse or something. That would be what I would go for.
So I need to add something now, since they got more than one. It's only fair that I add one. And I don't know that I would want to spend all my time in this, but I think family law needs our help.
Oh, yes.
I think family law needs behavior analysts in terms of like things like supervised visitation, parent support or parent training that they do, the court-ordered parent training. I think those places could really use our help.
Yes.
You know where that really needs help, and I work with a lot of people in that situation, because because I'm a therapist and I work with kids, and a lot of times like the co-parenting and the divorce and the breakups
it's
and
so
stuff
hard,
is so
man.
hard on the kids, and the parents, it's so hard on the parents too, and they struggle to do the co-parenting, really struggle, because now here's your ex and your and there's all this spitefulness between you two, and it affects the kid, and then I hear it from both sides sometimes, and it's just tough, and they need some help in navigating it. And like, I feel bad because I realize that I'm spending an hour a week with the kid, but like mom could get an hour, dad could get an hour, everybody could really use it, especially in a situation like that.
Well, the good thing is Mike and his ex-wife are both BCBAs, so there was no spitefulness. It was completely, it was great.
No, it was not. And the idea that you go with co-parenting as the go-to because it seems to be the best for the kids, and then I think the greater point you're making there, Dr. Skaz, is that it doesn't work out that way a lot of the time. So this notion that you parallel parent, this idea that as much as it stinks for your kids, you kind of have to separate sometimes in order to have peaceful camps on either side, knowing that, a lot of times that any sort of there's just so much contention, and it's two adults in a very heated situation with these little people in the middle. But yeah, I think family law can use our help tremendously in terms of helping parents co-parent or parallel parent, setting up, it's all about schedules, right? So we're perfect at that. Schedules for access, and then things like supervised visitation. From what I understand, in most states, it's a very important role, and then the certification for it leaves a lot wanting. So you can become one of those people, do like an 8-hour training course here in California for a few bucks, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into these situations like you were describing, Dr. Scott, that are highly contentious, very tense, very volatile, and you're managing adults' behavior as well as kids' behavior, and then there's a developmental piece that needs to come in there in terms of understanding, all the detriments and things that can get created for kids here. But anyway, too long of an answer there. I apologize. You had something else going, Dr. Scott. So those would be our ideal settings we'd want to work in outside of the autism thing.
That's I thought maybe someone would include autism. I wasn't sure, but that's really interesting. And we all met like that through autism, because we've all had that experience. It's hard to not have that experience when you're in this field. It's like always something that, like, even when you're out of it, it's almost like you're in it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's so funny. I really felt like that population chose me. Like, I did not choose that population. Like, did not get into ABA, like knowing anything about autism or anything like that. At the time that I got into ABA, this is before the insurance mandates and everything. Yeah. And, I got in it because of the science. But I guess for me, I'd really like to work with, professional athletes, really high performers, the best and the best. They don't have to be necessarily an athlete, but, someone who's like competing at the top, at the highest level in one thing or another. I think that's like interesting. And I'm fortunate I get to work in situations that I really like working in. Like I get to work in mental health and just generally help people with things. And sometimes we get done a mental health target and there's, I want to get this business going and I help them with that too. And, and that sure helps their mental health when they get a business going. And, and it's like I get to work in some of these areas that I have wanted to work in, just not so consistently, but like when I see the opportunity, I'm like, yeah, let me use some behavior science to help you.
It'd be an interesting one, Dr. Scott. And with the high performers, it makes me think about it because before I got into this field, I was always a server, but I went through a phase where I was a professional poker player, I guess you could say. And I still, I'm still into that scene. I still watch a lot of poker, play it sometimes, not as much as I used to. But that would be a really interesting one to explore from a behavior analytic perspective because outside of the individual hand variance, it literally is just behavior analysis of another person. Mm-hmm. And then the payout could be theoretically pretty high because, if you're really successful, you can do pretty well. So that would be an interesting one.
I was working with a poker player. So I was, looking into it and, he wasn't it's something he did because you didn't have a whole lot of choices with a drug addiction, and that was something that I wasn't even working with him for the drug addiction. I wasn't his therapist for that. It was just helping him with a lot of other things. But some of the things we were looking at, we were definitely talking a lot about like decision making and things like that. Burnout was another topic that came up a lot because he was on the, trying to play a lot, we were talking about like, all right, get into a lot and like how much he should, be betting for and looking at his money roll and how things are going money wise. And, how about success in these tournaments? All right, if you're not having a lot of success, are you just jumping on another table? Because you haven't been playing too well right now. So maybe you shouldn't jump into another cash game right now. Just because you've lost a couple games in a row doesn't mean you should bet more money. You know what I mean? And like that decision making is like a big part of it, and like you have to have that sound decision making. When you don't have that sound decision making, you have money on the line. You got to know that you're not making these sound decisions and either take a break or do something about it. I think that's an important part of it. But certainly like how you're reacting to other people. I also like looking at I thought it was really interesting. I play poker too. I thought I wouldn't look at my cards until like the very end, right before I had to look at my cards. That's when I would look at it. So no one would get a read off of me. Yep. But how long people, if you're looking at online poker and you don't really know, someone might be distracted or something, but how long people take on their turn, and is there consistency there? And are they doing something? Are they taking a while? Because if they're taking a while, they're considering something. And if they're considering something, they might have something in their hand, or at least something that plays that relates to what is going on, or maybe they just got distracted tying their shoe and it took them a few seconds to, to hit the button on online poker, So yeah, a lot goes into it, but I've been looking into behavior analysis of poker. There's definitely ways we can help people there.
Awesome.
And in terms of industry, the autism intervention is the most prominent, but there are people doing a whole lot of other things with ABA. We just don't tend to hear enough about it. Maybe the funding sources aren't as accessible. What do you guys think about that in general?
Well, there's a part of it where there's the industry advantage. You don't want to give a competitive advantage, to others. So yeah, there's behavior analysts working here and there, and sometimes I could tell with a professional sports team when there's behavior analysts working with them. I could see, some of the things they're doing, and I could tell. And it's like, all right, well, are you going to be reading about that in Java? And I would say, no, you're not. You're not, in fact, that person is not producing any, research. So you don't get to read about it. And, they're just helping their client. There's plenty of ways that I help my clients that you guys aren't going to find out about it because I just can't talk about it, for privacy reasons. So there's that part of it that you have these professionals who are doing what we would say would be called service delivery, and they wouldn't be sharing it with everybody else, with some of these professional sports teams, but you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell there's behavior analysts there.
Even medically, though, I feel like our utility has been very sort of narrowed down to the autism diagnosis. And I know that one of the arguments for that here in California, or at least when I've looked into like the behavioral pediatrics thing, which is something I really want to do, and that's, it's going to have to be out of pocket expense for parents initially, or it is in the models that exist. But a lot of the reasoning that people give here is, well, you guys aren't licensed in California, but we're licensed elsewhere, and I still don't hear that medical utility expanding much. You guys know anything beyond autism intervention that people are doing medically? I mean, like I would imagine that the diabetes front is pretty well developed, but I feel like there's a good amount of room for us in there, especially with like more pediatric applications. I know the gerontology piece is in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, didn't someone mention Shouberte during one of our meetings? They were like, oh, this next big thing. And, they were looking into it. It was like geriatric.
Yeah, that's the Alzheimer's piece.
Geriatric population and stuff like that, that might be the next new thing. But another state got ADHD covered for behavior analysts too.
Okay,
but
that's cool.
At the same time, it's
Virginia covered substance abuse now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, substance abuse was another thing.
Right on. That's great.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, all right, well, that's good, but does that mean if you're a BCBA, you could just work in substance abuse? And it's like, all right, that's where things might get really dangerous,
right?
Because we do have this certification, and the certification is very like autism, centered. And my big thing is like, I didn't want to just work with kids with autism just so I could not work with kids with autism. I felt like that was ethically questionable if I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's how you get your hours mostly. And if you're trying to get your hours other ways, it's hard. You have a hard time doing it. And then in these other settings, it's like, is that BCBA cert the right cert? You know what I mean? Like, is that would that be the right cert for me for doing acceptance and commitment therapy? And I feel like, no, right? Is that a behavior analytic intervention? Can you do it better if you're a behavior analyst? Yes. Like you want to have a behavior analyst who does acceptance commitment therapy, but is that the right certification for someone who does that? No, the right certification would be like licensed practicing counselor or licensed psychologist or something like that. So then we got a problem with where we have this intervention coming from one field, right, that doesn't have the certification for it, but is useful in another field. So you can see some of the reasons why we need SIBA right now. We want to expand. We all talked about different things that we wanted to do in the science, and like it makes sense. I could see Mike having the office down the hall from the pediatrician, and the pediatrician like, all right, just a couple doors down, and then like, and it works like that, like kind of like in that model. I could see that happening, and I think that would be like really helpful, right? It would make a whole lot of sense. But getting there, like we're not there yet. We certainly have to, we have to expand, and it's actually very few of us that work in other areas. It's something like 80, somewhere in the 80%. Actually, I have it written down. It is 82.64% of BCBAs work in autism, so that leaves just a small percentage, 17%, that work outside of autism, and that minority needs a voice. It needs a voice that can fight for it and something that can push policy for it, because it's not going to get done by the majority. The majority is already getting paid. We're talking about areas that someone needs to stand up, or a group needs to stand up and say, hey, we can help here too. We can make a difference here too. Let's make that happen. Let's make it so we can make a difference.
Even just making something more visible, whatever the other, 17 and change percent is that are doing something different. Who are those people? What are they doing? I think that would change the whole terrain, because now, to your point, Dr. Scott, somebody comes out of undergrad or whatever, and they can see somebody applying something in a way that's new. Or right now, you come out, you hear ABA, you hear autism intervention, that pretty much swallows up the whole conversation for the most part, So I think you're absolutely right. Even just putting somebody else out there that's like, hey, they do this with behavior analysis. It's not necessarily animal science in some lab. It's not just autism intervention, but it's all these other things, so that whether it was sports performance or on pro sports teams or some other avenue that would make it a viable livelihood for somebody. But yeah, I mean, 17% that's not nearly visible enough, I would contend.
And the funny part is right now, I don't even feel like if someone wanted to go into those areas, ideally you'd want to support them with someone who has a lot of mentoring and experience in that area. And you can't even provide that right now. Right. I feel like the best way for me to support my students who want to do ABA outside of autism is to like teach them how to be a pioneer and to like be an entrepreneur and make a business for themselves and find out how to market themselves and sell this idea instead of like working on the procedures that they would need, in that field. Like, I feel like, making them into that person that can make something of it, that could deliver that and, and have a website and have a very niche or specialty business or something like that. That's where the value is, which is kind of bothersome, because like, I feel like that's not what we should be teaching. I really wish these avenues were already in place and like analysts would have a choice. It's kind of like we got away from the direction we were going, and we got so hyper focused on autism that we forgot like our original mission, like what we were supposed to do. There were supposed to be behavior analysts everywhere. It was supposed to be a behavioral revolution. What happened to our revolution? Our revolution died. We lost. Is that what happened? Like did the other side win? But we were supposed to have behavior analysts everywhere. We were supposed to save the world, and it's like almost like we got distracted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's like, you being a PhD, if, therapists could only work with addiction, like that's the only thing that they did, nothing else. That would definitely be very pigeonholing for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you have other boards being created, but they're still focusing on that autism whenever conferences are occurring.
Yeah.
It's more on, okay, we have a speaker and it's still autism gear rooted. Like you're like, okay, I want to hear about an OBM speaker in a conference when I'm paying all this money. I want to hear someone say, I work as I'm a sex analyst and this is what I do and we want more of you. We want to see someone speak about, I work in the pediatric center, that's what I'm doing and we want more of you. Where there's a card, a table, we want to recruit and teach you right now. Join us. I want to see that in a conference when I go, but I'm not getting that a lot. If I go to FABA or the ABAI is trying, I feel like Quaba board came on, it's still autism. I thought, if you're doing a different board, do it a little different from what the BACB is doing, but it's still about autism. The IBAO, I think it's trying but we want people to give exams on the subspecialties. So now they are certified, they go to the BACB, but then they want that extra curriculum. We want universities to start teaching those. We want people to write books more geared towards those subspecialties, and we're giving them to universities. We are partnering with them, and those universities can now teach that curriculum about the subspecialty a bit more. And then the student comes and take an exam where they pass, they have that extra certification, and then they can teach it. And that's what SIBA, where SIBA comes, we want to do that. And so we want professors to come. We want those who already have that affiliation with universities to come. And where you are going to now, like a conference, we want to do our first conference on anything you can talk about, but do not mention autism to cover any of that, because we're getting it elsewhere. So that's what we want. If you are knowledgeable in that, you come and you provide that, and those people can get their CEUs in something else and broaden their knowledge.
Imagine
Love that. Yeah. Like rewriting the algorithm, basically.
Yes.
Kind of like the ABA algorithms, all autism right now, and that's all it's getting fed.
The way you just stated it too, it's I think that's what it takes. It's what you're proposing. We're going to have an ABA conference, and it's prohibited to talk about autism.
Yes.
You cannot talk about. I think you have to force the issue. Even as I've explored the behavioral pediatrics piece and talking to pediatricians and saying, hey, I actually want to hit up your waiting room because a good 30% of those people are there for something behavioral. Their response is always back to, well, we already have somebody that screens for the developmental disabilities or the autism. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about the rest of the kids, whether or not they have autism. I'm talking about, the bedwetting and the sibling rivalry and the picky eating and the hyperkinetic piece before it becomes ADHD. All those things that we could address in pediatrics, I feel, as people are waiting for that specialty referral through their insurance, because the pediatrician has said, well, give it another 6 months or give it another 2 months. And if it doesn't go away, come back and see me. And they're doing their best. I'm not being at all critical. They're literally saying, hey, let's see how this differentiates. Well, during that time, we could be intervening. We could be helping differentiate that circumstance from a behavioral perspective, such that medical professional can now arrive at something and say, hey, I think this is what it is. You know what? Or it wasn't this. It was all behavioral. Good luck, mom and dad. Go on with your developmental progression and see what happens next. Versus, oh, you know what? This isn't just behavioral. Now I've got something more physiologically or anatomically based as a pediatrician to look into, for example.
I don't know if you notice when you go to a conference and stuff, when it's a different topic, like a sleep disorder or sleep issue, or it's something different, it's packed. So it's
Can't get in.
It's different. It is packed versus
depends on who it is. If it's me, it's half empty room.
No, come on, Dr. Scott.
That's not true.
You can fit no. When it's on behavior analysis sports, I think you fit us all in a big conference room pretty easily. I think there's just not that many people doing it, but yeah. If Hanley's talking, then it's packed. But I was thinking after listening to Mike, maybe we should hook Mike up with Dr. Stephen Mirren, and you might even want to have him on your podcast. Sure. He's a MD that he advocates for. And he's a behavior analysis in the medical industry a lot. And his biggest argument that's really gotten me is like, we have like what we would treat this with, right? And then almost all the time you see behavioral treatments and we're not referring. Like we should be every time that is on there as part of the treatment, that there's like behavioral treatments. Okay. And anytime you would come into the doctor for, my kid's got, ADHD, or I think my kid's got autism, or I think my kid has this, or I think my kid has that. Anytime you would go into the doctor, like the doctor, his first line is not for the pharmaceutical. The first line of treatment is always going to be behavioral. Right. So like, why aren't we getting tons and tons of referrals from these doctors when that's in their directives of how to treat that?
That makes sense. Plus, I think I've heard that a lot of people are projecting the field of medicine is going to change with AI, and it'll be less of doctors figuring out what medications people should be taking, because AI will be way better at being able to siphon through people's medical records and figuring out pairing what medication would be better. It'll be more bedside manner and getting people educated on how to take that medicine, which is both behaviorally based.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the neuropsychopharmacology part of it is something we haven't explored either, like, kids on medications.
That's because we can't fit that title in a...
but the therapeutic effects as well as the side effects, it is. The therapeutic effects and the side effects both have behavioral components. They would both be managed behaviorally, right? So how often do you have a parent say, hey, when you went on the stimulant medication, my child was doing great, but they're chewing on their shirt, so we discontinued it. Well, wait a minute. They were doing well, but they were chewing on the shirt. Maybe we could have addressed that pretty easily.
Yeah. It's really funny. That just happened. It just happened to me yesterday. It's so funny you say that, Mike, and it just happened to me yesterday. Actually, I guess technically it happened last week, but I had the client again. And just to let you know, the behavioral intervention was successful, and there are no new holes in his clothes this week. Okay. I'm just saying.
Look at that.
I'm just saying. We got a great treatment worked, and it was just positive reinforcement. That's all it took.
That's all
we made a deal. If he comes out of school and he's got no holes in his clothes, then he gets ice cream. right? And we all shook on it, and that was the deal, right? And then, and that's what happened. And the funny thing is, co-parenting difficulty. Dad picked him up one day, didn't know. Kid had a fit, of course, meltdown.
Oh man, that's so
thought
hard.
he was going to get ice cream, but like, I've been working with mom to be like, all right, let's, and when we talk to dad, let's not be mean, and let's not be mean around the kid or anything like that. And let's, we're not going to argue around the kid. We're not going to do that, and she was able to say, well, this is what we had set up. And, and then dad got him ice cream. So it still worked out, and there's no new holes in his clothes.
And now you get to, and now, assuming that it was part of like a stimulant medication side effect, it's like, okay, now we can enjoy the therapeutic effects of that medication. The child can benefit from that, making themselves more accessible to their environment, and their shirts are okay. We're good. Everybody wins, right? I mean, it's pretty basic. Talk about, parsimony. Like, it's a pretty basic approach, but it's not part of the medical model currently. That's probably the bigger part of the question, is how we infuse ourselves into that, so that pediatricians, for example, do know that they can send, they can hire somebody down the hall, or they can send somebody to the next office over and have families get that help with their kids. So, well, I warned you, Shuby, that this time would fly. Here we are, nearing 2 hours.
You sure we can't go for another 2? Who do you guys got next? Come on,
we do. We're going to be talking about sex next, actually. So we have to.
Who do you have?
Who do you have?
Nicholas Mayo.
You guys!
He's with us. He's with Siba.
So he's. Do you guys? Does Rachel hang out with you guys? Rachel Benson too, or? I think they work together. Well, that's another heavy hitter. We'll talk about her next time. Yeah, the whole sex therapy thing and behavior analysis seems to have a good little niche. Yeah, like that's really, working out for sure.
And yes, we could talk for another 2 hours, which means we'll have to have you both on again at some point.
Yes. The answer is yes, just not right now.
Yes, we work very well.
Last call.
For real. We do. Yes.
Shuby, tell everybody out there once again where to find you, Behavior with a U. Yeah, let people know out there as we close up here where they can find you, where you want them to find you.
Well, it's funny I say, forget about my small business. I want them to find me on LinkedIn, Siba.
Cool.
You can go to Instagram, type in official Siba board, and you'll find on us on Instagram. If you go to LinkedIn, is the whole Siba word. So you're going to have to type Society for the Expansion of Behavior Analysis. You'll see us pop up. You can also follow me, just my name, Shouberte Abreu. You can follow me and we can connect. If you're like, hey, I don't want to be part of Siba, but at least I just want to learn, you can just connect with me, with Dr. Scott, anyone who's part of Siba who's a member. So we have Gary Carone, you have Dr. Scott. If you go to any of us, you will still connected. We're still connecting the dot. Hey, somebody reached out. They wanted this information, and we still communicate. So it doesn't matter. With Facebook, we are on Facebook. If you type in the whole, I think it's Siba on Facebook. Not just the Society for the Expansion. Give me 1 second. Let me check.
Sure.
And you could find me on ABA on Tap. I'll be on every other episode.
Yes.
Love it.
And we are on Teams as well. So if you go, if you go to Facebook, the whole name is Society for the Expansion of Behavior Analysis,
right on.
And you'll find us there. And I am also on Facebook. And we are on Teams. We are accepting people to go on Teams. We can, if you just message us, we will send you the direct link for Teams, so you can join Siba and be a member on there too.
Nice. It's really Siba, right?
Siba.
Siba, Society for the Expansion.
Dan, don't cause trouble, Dan.
Yeah.
Don't cause trouble, Dan.
Yes.
I thought you were saying Saba. I thought wait.
Seba. He was saying Seba.
Seba.
Oh, Seba. That's how you say it on the West Coast, right?
That's the West
Seba
Coast.
on the West Coast.
That's the West
Seba
Coast
on the
dialect,
East Coast,
right?
Yeah.
It's
You
spelled-
always know you go to a conference. You always know if someone's from East Coast or West Coast.
That Dan guy from the West Coast and his CBA.
West Side.
And
So-
we do have an email too, and we have a website that's almost done. So
Right.
people can even start.
Oh yeah,
checking
check out our
us
website.
on our website, sebaimpact.org.
And we'll put that in our link.
SEBAIMPACT.org.
Awesome.
You can check us out too. Yeah.
Well, Shuby, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for inviting an additional guest. This has been a really, really good time. I'd like to offer a few closing points here so we can do our tagline. So what I've got today is establish cooperation, not simply assent. Add a U to your behavior analysis. Try measuring your rapport. Do it better with behavior analysis. And
Always analyze responsibly.
cheers, guys.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
cheers. Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Yum yum.
Always analyze responsibly.
ABA on Tap is recorded live and unfiltered. We're done for today. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. See you next time.